something that we do often. Most of the time, the work session is more, which you don't have everyone here, but it's not. It's usually like maybe 1, 2 people, a council member, and maybe the mayor and the utility director in lieu of the whole council or the majority of the council. But that's good because we like doing this and educating you, and so that you guys can make good decisions. So first off, I just kind of want to bring you up to where we are. Obviously, I've presented to the council before. It was more of a, I guess, what I would call more of a condensed kind of trying to bring you up to speed of where the current conditions of the tanks. So what we've done here is we've identified the tanks. We've targeted, I've targeted with Nick kind of where things are at and kind of a plan moving forward for you guys. I'd like to bring you up to speed, I guess, or kind of just do a refresher in regards to the tanks. Because what we'd like to do is have you prepared for everything in regards to having that fresh on your mind, and kind of focus in on what we call an asset management program, a maintenance program for each tank, as we've outlined, or at least preliminary outlined everything here. So just a little bit about the company, McGuire, out of Sioux Falls, South Dakota. That's corporate. I'm in Olathe. I'm the regional manager. This is Joan. She's a sales associate for our company as well. Lives in Hayesville. We have a facility in Texas as well. I've been doing this for over 100 years. Been owned by the same family for roughly since the early 50s. We operate with 8 to 10 crews, in-house crews, what we call the employee crews. That's in-house crews, and we work with subcontract crews as well to take care of roughly about 1,600 tanks throughout the central part of the U.S. We have a new tank division as well, so we're not just painting and repairing existing tanks. We're actually engineering, manufacturing, and constructing new tanks as well. Usually around in the 30 to 40 range of tanks a year that we do. Mention that as well. That's more of our capabilities and stuff. When I do an assessment, or when we target and identify things on a tank, we take into consideration KDHE and what their requirements are as well, so that we can, again, educate you on what needs to be brought up to compliance, and so that we can give you pricing and schedules to make those repairs. As it relates to safety, we got OSHA as well that we work with to bring up to compliance, and as well the American Waterworks Association. They all have standards in regards to tanks and what should be done. So that's what we look at. So the cold tank, to bring you up to speed on both of those, in 2018 we performed interior and exterior renovations on each tank, and with a few repairs. In 2018 on the exterior, they were just power washed and overcoated. Through my assessment, these particular pictures here of the cold tank, there's some areas of the tank itself, the body of the tank, that are performing okay in regards to the renovations that was done in 18. There's some areas of the tank that aren't performing as well, mainly on the legs, but there are some areas of the tank that itself, such as the belly, and then some of the sidewall. But you've got high mils of paint here. I've explained this last time. We start to get concerned, or we want to do additional testing and measurements when it is at 20 mils and higher. I've done a number of areas of testing where the mill thickness was anywhere from 20 to 40, 45, I believe. I'll show some pictures of that. But we've got some areas here that and because of the mill thickness and what's going on with the adhesion, it's not a good idea to overcoat on either tank. I did some lead testing, as I mentioned, I think at the last council meeting or that I was at, and gave those results to Nick. I took samples from legs at different locations and on the tank at different locations and sent those all in, and they all came in hot, which is over 5,000 is the number for KDHE. I think some of those are in your books as where that enters to be hot as far as the lead. So these exterior wise, these are candidates to blast, fully blast, proper containment and disposal of the lead-based paint, and that is what is required. Because of the coating conditions and how they're performing and stuff, if you would do an overcoat, they would fail fairly quickly. Especially as you can see right now, a good example indication is we did the overcoat in 2018. The legs are performing very poorly. There's areas of the other tank, of the tank body itself, that are performing okay, but that coating system typically performs about maybe a 10 to possibly 12-year life expectancy before you would overcoat it again or do a renovation. In this case, again, it's already failing badly on the legs and some areas of the tank, so it's not a good indicator, and to be justified to do an overcoat this time, you would be throwing money away. The interior is performing as we expect. You do have high iron content, so that's why the water, and there is staining as well in here. So, but the coating itself is performing very well as planned, and should get another. Again, we figured 12 to 15 years on the interior, so you got another 6-7 years before this would need to be recoated. Safety conditions, we measured. We got no mid rail. We've got 36-inch on the handrail on the cold tank. I believe on your hot tank, it was changed. It was done, upgraded in 2018 when we did some of those renovations. At least that's what the scope of work indicates on the contract, I believe. I'll get to that one. You do have new vents. Those were replaced in 2018. Those are compliant vents for KDHE, so that's all good. Overflow needs to be altered. It can't go into the ground like that. It's supposed to be visible as far as the discharge and have certain requirements in regards to flap gate and screens on there. Foundations, we look at that. Structural conditions, there's a couple of the pads that would need some repairs, cracking, spalling, and things. So we would fix those as well. Security, looked at all that. We've got an anti-climb for the ladders because the ladders didn't have a anti-climb. This is just a little bit of history in regards to the tank. And these, this is kind of what our scope of work and things that we lined out for the cold tank. Get change to go to the hot. It will go much quicker, and then we can dive into the program itself. All right. So here's the hot tank. Again, areas on the tank that is performing well, some areas that aren't. As you can see, there's the different elevations of the paint. You can see pretty well on this one. Again, when you put more paint on this where it's already thick, during contraction, expansion, freeze thaw, things like that, it will start to come off. We'll have failures and things like that very quickly. There's on the roof, pretty light. This roof has been replaced at some point in time, not sure exactly when, but it's not like the rest of the tank. It's a welded roof instead of a riveted roof system. Here's mills of 28 in the areas. There's the belly. Again, areas where it's performing poorly. There's 46 mills. Again, I did this for both tanks, but you can see a little closer on the legs of how that's performing. Interior's performing well. We looked at safety conditions. There's an old anti-climb, so we put new anti-climb. Your railing, as I mentioned, was in that 2018 contract that we performed. It was actually signed in 17, but we did do a handrail, and we did raise the hand railing on that particular one. Couldn't tell you exactly why we didn't do it on the cold one at that particular time. I couldn't tell you, but let me ask you a question. Was who, I know you weren't, Tim, but were you on the council at that particular time, any of you? Okay. So I don't know what the discussions was or how the conversations went in regards to that, why would they did it to the hot tank but not the cold tank, but in most cases, because I can see that it was a contract of $202,870. Maybe that was all the budget could handle at that particular time. A lot of times that's the case in regards to the scope of works and things like that. You dial it down to, what can fit within your guidelines as far as your budget. But that's completed, so that doesn't need to be done. Again, compliant roof vent. Sanitary conditions is what we look at. Here's the overflow. That's why the overflows would need to get adjusted in regards to the discharge. Then we got the security conditions as well. Mentioned that. So what, after disclosing all of this and going over it with Nick and the mayor, and I think it's another council member that's not on the council anymore, but we discussed a number of solutions in regards to how to handle this, because as I mentioned in, I believe in our last meeting, or in the last meeting I was at, it's a significant cost, and it's even a greater significant cost because you have lead on the exterior. And I believe I mentioned, that adds roughly $100,000 per tank in regards to that containment system, the disposal of lead-based paint. Because on the exterior, our recommendation is let's blast it all off and start the process back over again. That's the most economical way to maintain the exteriors, to do an overcoat as much as possible. At some point in time, it's not gonna be worth the investment to overcoat, because again, you'll put an overcoat on and then it will fill very quickly. So it's time to blast it back to steel and start that process over again. So that adds, again, dollars to it. In talking with the mayor and Nick and the previous council member in regards to the different solutions that we have, we went through the scenario of, well, let's just keep doing it how you've been doing it. Showed them that, and then we said, here's the maintenance program. This is how that works. And they said, let's focus on the maintenance program. We really like that. Takes the risk and liability of the two tanks off of the city and puts them on McGuire. The process is very similar to what you've been doing. I can see in our files that a company called Red Top was taking care of your tank in roughly from 1961 on until McGuire bought them. And so I've got a lot of the data there in regards to how it was maintained, how it was inspected, and things like that, good data information. And so that way we can educate and put a good plan together for you guys. You're on a service agreement at this point right now. We do an inspection on each tank every other year. And I mentioned we painted it was in 2018. So we take all of that information, all of that data, and we plug it into a maintenance program. Each tank is pretty close to $300,000 each. I've outlaid some preliminary numbers to Nick that might be on your program in regards to the maintenance program. The thing in regards to the maintenance program is we're very flexible in regards to how we can assist in managing that for you as far as a budget is concerned. Obviously, $300,000 each tank, roughly. That's a lot of money. What I've showed Nick in the programs is spreading that cost out over roughly 5 years. So the cost is, if you said, you know what, money doesn't matter, we've got plenty of it, we want the tanks done. Next year, we do each tank, you write us a check for $300,000. You can do it that way, or we can spread it out 5 years, and the price is exactly the same. So that helps manage and fits within your budget better. So that's kind of where we're at in regards to the cost, I guess, of each tank. The scope of work is fairly flexible in regards to the exterior, whether we do one of those tanks next year, the tank, the next tank after that, the next year. The interiors, as I mentioned, are performing very well. So we've got those identified and scheduled roughly to get done in years either 6 or 7. So that work would get scheduled then. If it kind of depends on how important the exterior is to you in regards to getting those, getting that completed and the tanks looking better. But we're pretty flexible in that. I think on the programs, I think I showed one of the tanks somewhere in that $58,000 range for roughly 5 years, and the other one just under that. So that's kind of what we would be looking at in those areas to help, again, spread those costs out. Those are preliminary numbers at this point. Haven't confirmed everything and finalized the scope of work and the schedule and everything. That's kind of what I guess I was kind of hoping to do today with this work session, kind of get your guys' input and thoughts in regards to a maintenance program, whether you like it, don't like it, what's important to you to make decisions like this for something like that, and kind of discuss that. The repairs would get done depending on the renovation type. Most of the repairs that we've identified are all exterior, so they would get done when the exterior would get done. The only time that we wouldn't do some of the repairs is if it would damage or damage the interior coating. Then typically we do those when we do the interior coating in lieu of damaging the interior coating at this time. But the majority, if not all of the repairs, I believe can be done because they're exterior. So we'd be able to do all of that as well during that process of doing the exterior. All of your inspections would be included in the maintenance program as well. Any future KDHE revisions where they tend to get more stringent, those would all be included within the maintenance program. And I don't know if I've sent I don't know if there's any questions in regards to the maintenance program or not, but I sent this out as well. I don't know if you've seen it, where the features and then the benefits in regards to the program. The coatings would be under 100% warranty. So again, I say 12 to 15 interior, 10 to 12 exterior. For whatever reason, neither one of them are performing as well as they should. And let's say in year 8, it needs to be painted. It gets painted, and your annual amount is still the same. It wouldn't increase. It wouldn't cost you any more. That would be the price that you have to pay. We're talking $300,000 today each tank. The other way to do that, the other solution, is to keep doing the service agreement as we have been. We've educated you on the renovations that need to come up. You take care of those in the year that we would just identified, and then future council is presented with having to budget and plan for those future renovations, which at this point in time, obviously things tend to go up. They don't tend to go down, especially this particular type of professional service, this type of work. So managing that, budgeting that for that can be somewhat difficult. There are more surprises, it tends to be, in lieu of a maintenance program where we're willing to, typically our standard is to lay out a 10-year program, and that way you know what you're going to be paying for the next 10 years on the tank and beyond that. It's an evergreen contract, so it renews every year. You've got a 3-month grace period to cancel it should you want to cancel it. We can't cancel it. The only way we can cancel is if you're not paying. But it's a program set up to manage and take care of the maintenance ends on critical infrastructure that costs a lot to replace and costs a lot to maintain. And as long as I've been doing this, in my opinion, if I was sitting on your side, I mean, I believe it is a good program because it's such an expensive part of a city that and the maintenance is, again, fairly predictable, pretty predictable in this application, how the coatings perform, and it's pretty easy to budget for, I guess, in my opinion, whether you do it on your own or whether you do it through a maintenance program. I just believe on the maintenance program, your risk and liability is considerably less, which I believe would be justified, in my opinion. I'd like to hear some questions or comments or things that you guys might want to discuss or dive into as well.
What I'm looking at here is a situation that we have 2 water towers, both of them well over 100 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And what's the likelihood of any catastrophic situation occurring? And would it be, if I was looking forward, would it be better to maintain these, say, for the 10-year period?
Yep.
And at the end of that 10-year period, if you could have accumulated enough money, you put in a new tower.
That's very, it's definitely doable on your end. I may be reading into your question a little bit. Let me, I'll answer some of it
I'm
this
just
way.
concerned.
Yeah, because I've done this a number of times. I just did it with, I don't know if you guys know where the Prairie Band Casino is. They're north of Topeka. We take care of their 2 water towers. And just asked me that same question. Of course, they've got a lot of growth and everything. And I said, I've done it so many times. I mean, we can put the pencil to the paper if you want. But it is always, at least in my opinion, the numbers show that it's justified to maintain and take care of what you have versus going with a new one.
Okay.
There's certain situations that going with a new one makes more sense. If you needed head pressure, you need pressure in a certain zone of the town or whatever, and the tower needs to be higher. If you need more capacity than what you have, those are the things that typically say, all right, it's justified, we need to go with a new water tower. As far as if everything is perfectly fine, as far as operational, the pencil says it's justifiable to go with maintain what you have and do it that way.
Well, even if you put in a new tower, the next year you're going to have some maintenance.
Well, you shouldn't. You'll have inspections needed, but maintenance doesn't necessarily go away. It's pushed further down the road, but through the education that I've given, you would understand what that schedule looks like, and you could say, well, here's what it costs today. Let's try to guess what it's going to cost in 15 years. With a new tank, it's usually around 20, but that would be on your risk and liability as a city that owns that. But
what's the cost of a new tank?
A good question. So kind of depends on the capacity and things, but let's say a 50 to 100,000 gallon tank is right in that. When you go through everything, it's going to be right around $1 million.
Yeah.
The tank itself and just the foundation is probably somewhere in the $850,000 to $900,000 range, depending on the overflow height that you need. But when you start talking about the geotechnical, the site work, the engineering involved, the time you guys spent talking about how you want to do it and what you want to do, it's that in that $1 million to $1.1 billion range for a new tank.
So roughly 600,000 to strip and recoat the 2 that we have.
That is correct.
And you said that can be spread out over 5 years worth of payments. So $5,000 a month is what we'd have to pay in payments on top of the maintenance program too.
No, that's included.
Yeah.
That's part of the program.
Okay.
Once that, what we call a spread, once that spread is completed, then you would go to a base fee. And so the base fee for the 50,000, the cold tank,
Mhm.
which I showed Nick what the base fee on a neighboring town is, Burton. I think it was Burton. They're in a maintenance program with us. Yours was roughly the same as theirs, and they have 50,000 gallon tank. So it would drop to like $13,600 or $500, somewhere like that on that last year. The other tank would be slightly more than that because it's a bigger tank, but it would be 14,500, somewhere right in there. That's kind of where things would be.
This money includes all the work he's talking about doing.
All right, I guess that's what-
Except for that number didn't include that 93.5 for the containment, correct?
Well, which one?
I don't, the numbers you gave me, I can't remember if that had that 93.5 in it or not. I think
Yeah,
it
it's
did.
pretty close, yes. They're pretty close.
So the maintenance schedule, the 46 and the 58 a year, that includes the stripping and the.
That is correct,
retaining.
yes. That
Okay,
includes
that's, I
everything.
guess that's
Yep.
what had me a little lost there.
Yeah, I'm
'Cause I
sorry
thought we
about
were gonna
that.
have to pay
Yeah.
600,000 on top of this here to go ahead and get that done.
No,
All right,
No,
I
that's
got
all
you now.
included.
I'm-
so the scope of work for each tank and the cost of those renovations are roughly $300,000 each tank, roughly.
okay.
And then we would spread that over 5 years for each tank, if that fits within a budget. So, I mean, just for number terms, we're almost at 60, let's say on the one, let's just say they're both 60. So you'd be 120,000 annually for the next 5 years. And then after that, the small tank goes to, what is it, 13?
12.5 and 10.5.
Yeah, somewhere in that range. Yep, somewhere in there. And then you would get away on the maintenance program. You get away from the large lump sum renovations that again will come up in
I got you.
12 to 15 years from the renovations.
Current maintenance contract is what now?
Your current one is a service agreement. It's just for inspections
Okay.
only, and we do
Okay.
that every other year. Each tank,
Okay.
yeah. But all of that is included in the maintenance program as well. So that contract would get canceled, and then this one would take its place. When we talked about it at shop a couple months ago, the good thing is, you're not in a situation where, hey, it's an emergency situation or you need to do it like now, tomorrow, whatever, next day. Again, we can move the scheduling how it best fits with you and with the budgeting. I don't know if that number fits within your budget, doesn't fit within your budget or not. Hopefully it's close, because the upfront renovations on each tank is pretty solid. As far as the scope of work, what's needed, and then the cost is pretty close. We're willing to lock those in. Let's say at next council meeting, you decide, yep, we want to do this, we lock them in. Again, that's the way you already know what but if you don't, you say, well, we're going to kick this around a bit longer, and then a few more meetings go by, and then maybe you think about it next year, and then maybe let's maybe think about it in 26. Well, costs, I'm going to guess, are going to go up, things like that. It's, I don't know what it would be then. They typically don't go up a lot, but I would guess somewhere in the neighborhood of 5% more to possibly 10% more. So, it's a pretty good program to, again, assist towns like this to manage those those infrastructures that are pretty expensive.
Now, when we talked at the shop, because I was, Nick and I, we talked about the anti-fall,
Yep.
the anti-climb on the legs, and of course, the vents you mentioned.
Yep.
So that's all included in what we're talking about now.
That is correct.
Okay.
Okay, so. Breaks down to about 8,500 a month. For both towers.
And the schedule there is whether you would say, yep, we want to do this, and you know, approve it at the next council meeting. The schedule, the year one on the schedule is actually 2025. I think we're scheduled to do the hot tank this year. I don't think we've done it yet, but we would do that on the other agreement. Or
So we do
we'd
this.
probably just do it and take care of it.
We do this agreement, then this is just all hypothetical. We decide next council meeting, we're gonna go ahead and pull the trigger. So then, is that when you get with Nick or the mayor or whoever and start scheduling that we're gonna start stripping and painting these tanks then?
Yes.
Obviously, it'll probably be next summer.
Yep. I mean, I'd like to get a good indication from you guys in regards to the exterior. Would you like the tanks done next year? Would you like one done next year? Would you like to wait until 2026 to do the exteriors? It's up to you. Obviously, there isn't anything that is an emergency situation in regards to the exterior. There's no failing or structural issues or anything like that. It doesn't look very good, but that would be totally up to you guys. As you wait, wintertime is worse on those, so more paint chips will come off, and you'll see more areas that, oh gosh.
We just hire a high school kid to shoot me up a ladder with spray paint. Yeah, spray paint, fix it.
There you go.
I know one of the things that me and you talked about the last time we came was, like, if you look at the maintenance schedule, it shows on year 7 to do the exteriors. 6, yeah. He's suggesting that, like, at year 2 of the contract, we do one in year 3 because they are failing to this point, and so to get ahead of it. But we can move that wherever we want. But if we go ahead and get them started off and get them nice now, then it'll be easier to keep them that way instead of having more to have to deal with at year 6.
That's correct. You know, exterior wise, let's say you said, yep, let's do both of them next year, or let's do one next year and the one year after that. I mean, we would be performing roughly $240,000 worth of work on each tank, but yet we would only be, you know, billing you, invoicing you, let's say 60, 120, but, you know, we'd already performed double the amount of that work, and, you know, letting you pay for that over the next few years. And then the last renovation, which would be the interior, as far as the paint wise, would get done in the year following that spread being paid off, or that spread work being done. So then that would be the completion of what we call the upfront renovations that we've identified that need to be done over the next 5-6 years. So it sounds like you guys would want at least one, or, you know, it all depends on operation wise and things like that, but it sounds like you would want one of the tanks possibly done at least next year, and then the one after that, or whatever. My recommendation would be it's up to you guys, but it could either be the hot or the cold tank. Both of them are performing about the same on the exterior. The thing about the cold tank is it has a lot of antennas, so those would have to come off. So I don't know how, you know, where you're at with those service providers and what have you, what else up there. You would want to tackle that next year, or you would want to prep for it and do it the following year. And so you do the hot tank first and then the cold tank next. But I'm just saying that sometimes that takes time to get with your providers to find a solution of what you're going to do with them while that work's being done. I think we discussed a little bit about it, but the work schedule for each tank is pretty close to the same. We're looking roughly 4 to 6 weeks for each tank. So weather dependent, things like that. But
Now, if you got into the sandblasting and found a potential weak spot in one of the tanks, is that included in this, or that would be,
I didn't hear the question.
if you got into sandblasting the exterior of these tanks and found a potential failure point, would that be a repair on that? Would that be included in this?
So it depends on where it is located and things. So there are things within, that's a good question. There are things within this program that we don't cover. We can't cover things that we can't maintain, such as your fill pipes that are insulated. At some point in time, those will need to get replaced. Today's cost is around $80,000 to replace one of those inlet pipes, risers, with the jacketing and all of that. They tend to provide around a 50-year life expectancy, and then again they'll fail because again we can't maintain it. It will just, and it will have holes and whatever. So that's things that we don't maintain. We wouldn't cover that to a point because we don't know, we don't see it. It's not visible. However, what we do is and I've seen this a number of times. I mean, it doesn't happen a lot, but when you're blasting and stuff, you can discover things that you couldn't see. Typically, that additional cost is somewhere in the neighborhood of $5,000 to $8,000 on a tank like this, of this size. So it's not a large expense. Usually, every time that has been on when we're doing interior blasting, I've never seen it with exterior blasting. There could be some areas on the roof where maybe we're blasting through or whatever. I definitely do have that covered in here. So, but that's a really good question. That's the only potential area that I would see us really blasting through or creating a larger hole would be in the roof. And that is taken care of. That is included.
Well, I guess the next step on this is to see what we've got the budget to do and
Yep.
do the what, the when, and the how.
How do you guys feel about the program?
I mean,
As long as it's okay.
Yep.
And it may be that, you're booked to the point that you can't do one next year. That's possible.
No. No, it's not.
So it's not, okay.
No.
Well, I'm just
We
saying.
can do both of them next year. I think what's going to happen though, once you do one of them,
Yeah.
you're going to see how good it looks. You're going to like, if you guys don't say it, somebody from the community is going to say, when's the next one getting done?
Yeah. I understand that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Yeah. The only thing we haven't really discussed is everything that I've proposed here is going back as far as logo-wise, the way it looks right now. I don't know if you would want something different. I don't have any idea, but if you get too extravagant with some sort of a logo that has a lot of colors and things like that, I don't have that covered in here. Those are somewhat expensive, in my opinion. They tend to add, it depends on how elaborate you get, but they can add $15,000 to each tank if because there's a fair amount of work. But if you want to do what is there, then that's what I have. The other thing that I haven't discussed is we're going to do something different in regards to the colors, as far as not changing the colors, hot and cold as blue and red. However, we're going to put a coating coating system on there that has gloss and color retention the best it can get. They give 15-year guarantees, the paint company does, in regards to the gloss and the color retention. So it wouldn't fade quickly anymore. It would be bright and stand out and keep its color.
I don't know, we already have the hot and cold on all the shirts, so.
Yeah.
We have to get new shirts, let's keep it the same.
So everybody comes to take pictures of.
It is, it truly is, I mean, it, especially summer, fall, spring, bike riders, car riders, they'll stop and they take pictures of
Yeah.
the hot and cold water tower.
Does the rough preliminary of 60, or it's going to get it less than that, but does that fit with a budget? Does that,
As far as I can see, yes.
okay, 5 years then would work fine, spreading that
I
over
think
5
so.
years?
I think so.
Okay.
But we'd have to double check here. and
Okay.
make sure.
We'll look at that. I'll keep in contact with Nick, and that way, you know, if we need to do 6, let me know that fits within your budget, frees you up a little bit
Yeah.
for other things that you know that you have coming up and things like that. Just let me know how that looks so that we can structure it that fits with you guys.
Very good.
Great. Anything else?
Thank you.
You're welcome, very welcome. Would you like to have that available for your next meeting, or schedule-wise, what does this look like?
I'm going to say, meeting after next,
Okay. Do you have,
because I would want to make sure with our
Yeah.
accountant,
So next meeting is
everything
just
is
2 weeks.
number-wise.
do you have 1 a month or 2 a month? I can't remember. Okay,
One month,
okay. Oh, Wednesday or is it Thursday?
Thursday.
second Thursday. of the
Second
month.
Thursday, okay.
but,
Well, if there's any other things, any other conversations, I'll stay in contact with Nick. You can get those to Nick, we can get them addressed, and get you what you need.
Very good.
So we're gonna,
Appreciate your,
you're saying December
Yes.
12th meeting is when
Yeah.
you want to, okay, confirming.
but that gives
It gives all the time
all
to
the
get,
time we need.
yeah, versus just a 2-week.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much. Did everybody get cake? Yeah, I thought you were gonna bring cake in for
No, I was gonna make a box for you to take with you.
Probably have some office employees that wouldn't find some cake, don't
Yeah.
they?
Well, if we can
I had
do anything
Russia.
else,
Yeah.
between now and then, let me know.
Thank you.
Okay, appreciate
You're
it.
I
welcome.
know it's not
so.
your soup. I wasn't hungry,
Oh.
so it's not that.
See, I saw you look and thought maybe you didn't care for the smell, so I was like, oops.
We have to go to Lloyd. Make sure everything is kosher.
A lot of paper.
Not just shoots all the oil.
I know. And then times 2, we have 2 waters.
We would have to have
So I'm gonna put this on top.
Reese give us his blessing. There goes that bill. Somebody-
No, Nick did everything. Oh, it could have been, he just brought more pieces.
Yeah, because she had already taken her folder, I think, when I brought in the back
She can
stuff.
look at you.
What's your preference on the one that you're looking at, Nick?
Huh?
Do you have a preference on which one you want, or you don't care? I mean,
I,
there's a wide range of price here. So
there is a wide range,
thank you so much.
and it just depends on how and what we want to look at. This Key Rentals is just strictly going and renting one get the work done that we need done right now and returning it. The Vermeers, there's, in the Vermeer packs, there's two different vacs. The GT has a lower vacuum, so it's not gonna suck out the stuff as well, but it'll be good enough for what we need, should be. The SGT just has a higher vacuum rate. And then in that pack, there is two numbers. There is, and that may be the way you guys want to look a little bit more. This NCL
Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much.
is a lease to own.
Good question. Hey,
This is the least.
Yeah, the NGL is a
Huh?
lease to own, and it has it
oh, that's next.
where
Oh,
like this SGT, you can take it out for 3, 5, 7 years to lease it.
excuse me, Nick, is that yours?
Yeah.
Okay.
So that would make the cost a little more manageable, the upfront cost, and at the end of the time, it's ours. You know, like this one,
So 5 years is 15,000.
right? And the back page of it, if you buy that one outright, is $66,000. Buy it through the Vermeer, or this is actually through a government type program that you can buy just about anything through this NCL program. But they have, you can lease them to own through there, so like this one, GT, which has a little lower CFM to suck everything out of the hole. I mean, it's considerably, like the 7-year, I mean, about $1,000 to $1,500 a year on the 7-year difference between the two. But, so I'm trying to get as many options for you to look at. The ditch witches, which we could just drive to Wichita and grab one of these. They're cash only. They don't do lease, they don't do rents. So, I said, this one we had either have a lease or buy. And that one is just to rent one.
Well, I guess,
Both ditch witches
ditch
are
witches
cash only.
can just,
Yeah, the ditch witches, if you're looking at just flat buying one, are cheaper than the Vermeers. If you just wanted to pay cash for one and be done with it, the ditch witch is cheaper. That's why I included that one.
but the Vermeer,
But that one you can lease to own. Do that NCL.
so the lease option's like the 7-year, that 10,000, that's how much a year for 7 years, 10,000?
Yeah.
So that'd be $70,000.
You're gonna actually pay just slightly more than what the unit would cost for a cash price on it, but yeah. I don't remember that. This one.
It's a small one.
Like this one's 58,000 if you just buy it, or you're 70,000 total to lease. You're about $20,000 more.
But during that lease, are they gonna take care of the maintenance and basically,
I
while
think,
it's on lease, if it breaks, then they fix it?
I think I'd have to double check on all that, but I think under the lease we'll still be responsible for the maintenance and upkeep.
Well, I mean, I understand the maintenance, but say we're doing the maintenance, we're changing the oil.
And it breaks down.
greasing, and it breaks down. Are they gonna fix it?
I'd have to double check into that. They haven't sent a whole contract out of what's
I would-
gonna.
I would check on that, because if that's the case, if we've got 7 years of basically warranty,
Right,
then that would be worth the extra money that we're gonna pay,
right.
you know?
Quality
What's
of the
the
equipment,
difference
also,
between
isn't Vermeer better,
You gotta pay cash out.
is Vermeer a better quality?
Basically, one's just a bigger trailer.
This is
Well,
bigger.
I don't know. I think Vermeer versus ditch witch is
Number one.
Ford versus Chevy.
Okay.
I don't know that I've ever heard bad about either one of them. It's just kind of, guys have their brands that they
Which
like.
is the
Yeah.
better one of the ditch witch?
It's just basically modeled to be like a F-150 and a F-250.
Well, on the ditch witches, one is a little bitty, this MV8 is gonna be the bigger size one, that's gonna do more for us. Where the,
Looks like the MV-12.
Because there's, I mean, 20.
they quoted the MV8 pricing on this one. When
This
you-
was
when
the
you-
smaller one.
Right, that's the smaller one. And,
I have no
This one
idea.
would be the bigger one because it's,
right, this one. It's actually this one. It's a little bitty.
What exactly, I guess, what are we using these for? Just
This,
on the,
we can get our meter pits cleaned out so we can see what lead and copper is down at our setters.
so that's the actual.
We can get to the
picture.
meters to change out meters. I know, I was talking to her husband Austin, we got a lot of meter pits that need replaced. And Galva just takes theirs and cuts around the old pit, slides a new one in there and then pulls the old one out, and they're in and out in minutes, instead of spending half a day or better digging it out.
those are used.
So this price is for this
Yeah.
picture.
Keep your valve boxes clean. We can do some, depending on which size you got. The little small, ditch witch is not gonna do near as much, it's small. It'll clean out the valve boxes and stuff,
So this
and the meter boxes.
actual picture is this.
Suck the garbage out of the main breaks too, won't it?
That one, yeah, that one's got more power.
Difference, right? I mean, like,
And what's that? I don't remember the tank capacity on it, but it's all, yeah. But it's all in there as far as the tank capacities.
Well, everybody needs to review these because we are going to have to make a decision.
That's it.
We can't make any decisions today.
Right.
No, but.
And that's why I wanted to, I got as much information as I can get from anybody I can find with them, and it may be a little overload, but it gives you a wide example of what's
But
possible.
I guess we need to find out what we're budgeted for. I mean, if we could buy it outright and not
I was
pay
smarter to do that.
that leasing is.
Yeah.
Right, the leasing,
And if they're not gonna pay for that,
right,
Taking care of it.
taking care of it.
well, there's no agreement here to, like you said, to say
Right.
that. I'd be interested in that. I mean, obviously, you're gonna have to maintain it. You can't not take care of it and blow it up and they're gonna pay for it.
right. And
Is
then,
it kind of like a car warranty to where you have to prove that you did the oil changes
Well,
and
it doesn't
things
matter
like
if we buy
that?
it outright or not, we're still gonna have to maintain. it.
Yeah.
Make sure
either
we
way, yeah.
Take
Yeah.
care of it, so.
So I think we need, to me, why pay that extra $10,000?
No, it's more than that.
The
Yeah,
one,
well, I
the
know,
one
I
is
mean,
$20,000 over a 7-year,
Yeah,
the
that's,
7-year, if you go to the shorter year lease, you pay, of course, less, but
Hey, we gotta hear, yeah.
that's like 70. on-
Yeah, that's like saving like 10 to 15.
But I also threw this that has the Berry tractor. They actually have one in Wichita right now. It's a street sweeper that we can rent. We looked at it a couple of years ago when Jeremy was still here, and when we wanted to get it, it was in somewhere over in Missouri.
And how often would you do that?
Couple times a year.
Exactly, yeah.
You know, like,
It's up to me,
if you
yeah.
like the weekly, it would take about a week to get through all the streets and be done. You know, if we did it now, going in the winter, they'd be clean. Go like June-ish, July-ish, after we've had the rains, hit it again. It'd be nice to have one keep more often, but I'm thinking like twice a year if we look at the renting type
Sure.
So I thought we had a street sweeper.
and parts.
I mean, I understand that, but
Have we had
It's-
anybody look at it or?
It's wore out. It just wore out.
we were fixing it, it blew out another bearing, and when we pulled the bearing out, a couple of the shafts are cut in half.
Tyler.
Yeah,
Okay, so
Lacey,
Really?
Tyler, Lacey, yeah.
and, I mean, we could get it back up and running to what it did before, kicking the dust up and doing a partial job. And that's probably a couple $1,000 to get it to that point,
Right.
to get it to working right. Who knows what's all wrong with this? I've dug into some of the electronics, trying to figure out the water inside, and I know Jeremy and Cody tried to figure it out. Nobody can figure out that stupid electrical box.
I guess to me, we need to see what Scott Lloyd says on,
That's the whole key,
yeah.
how it fits in the budget.
Yeah.
So it really,
Right, I just,
Oh, yeah,
me and Jeremy
yeah,
had
sure.
looked at that, and I don't like looking at the street myself, and if we could at least get them twice a year,
Right.
some of the gunk out. And so you got that price for you guys to look at, and so if somebody goes, when are you gonna get the streets clean? At least you got a price that you know what it would cost.
Right, right. We're gonna have to start raising our costs on some stuff.
I'm proposing we adjourn.
I just have one tiny note.
Okay,
I would like everybody to read the info that was emailed.
Sorry.
It's okay, sorry.
Can you,
Earl,
we were having a discussion.
Earl was
on
gonna
the-
adjourn, I just wanted to make one, I sent an email about some pay info. And I just wanna make sure everybody got it and reviews it so that we can discuss it next meeting.
I need to go home to my wife, but you need to go home to your kids.
Yeah, I don't know if they ate dinner, they ate cake.
Well, they're kids, that's probably good enough, ain't it?
No.
As long as you take them more cake, they'll be happy.
Yeah,
Ice cream.
that's what Brinley wants for her birthday at school.
Oh.
Like, I don't know if your teacher wants us to bring ice cream cake for your birthday at school. In first grade. That sounds like a mess.
Could be a mess.
We'll bring it with some Clorox wipes.
Just get the little ice cream cups.
Put a scoop of cake on top. It'll be good still. It's next week.
So, we just